I'm Tom Bassel. Welcome to Board Game Breakfast. If you've never watched this show before, it's a variety show all about board games, and a lot of different people are going to be here talking about different aspects of board games. This is a big week if you're a board gamer because this is the week of Gen Con. Now, if you are going to Gen Con, and I imagine several of you are going because it's sold out. I'm imagining there'll be between 65 and 70,000 people there. Some of you may watch this show. If you're going, you we'll probably want to check a link. It's in the description that gives our schedule there. We're going to have a booth, so we'd love for you to come by our booth and say hi to us. We have different promos that you can get if you want to get them, help support the Dice Tower that way. But you don't have to. Just show up and say hi to us. We love that. We have a live show that several of you are coming to see with 1,200 people at it. If you're not coming to Gen Con, we'll try to have that up on the internet a little bit later. We're making some big announcements about the Dice Tower at Gen Con, so hopefully those will be interesting. And also some other companies are going to be making some pretty big announcements on our show there. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope to see many of you there. Certainly come by and say hi. Never hesitate to say hi. In fact, later on today, actually not much later on at all, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be doing a live preview of Gen Con. I'm going to be talking about the different things that are available at Gen Con and just talking about Gen Con in general, interacting with you guys a little bit as I go through that list. So, are you ready? Let's get started today with the news. Of course, a lot of stuff is being announced at this point in time as we get closer to Gen Con. There's a game called Forest Fun. This is a sequel to Best Treehouse Ever. Actually, it's a standalone sequel. Best Treehouse Ever was a card game about building a treehouse, and so this one looks very similar with different rooms and pieces. I liked the first one, so I will probably like this one. Gaia Project. This is a sequel to Terra Mystica, has been announced from Z-Man. Now, interestingly enough, okay, so we have Terra Mystica, which is a very highly rated game. It has a game with a fantasy theme in it. I don't think the theme's that strong, but also don't think I don't really like the game that much. And obviously, I am way in the minority on that one. This one looks very similar, has a lot of same things, although it looks like a big epic space game, a big epic, very Euro-y game. So I'm eager to try it because, hey, maybe I'm missing something, okay? And secondly, it's space, which I like a lot. So this is coming out later this year, I think Q4. Estrella Drive is the next Time Stories module. This is a paranormal Hollywood-style game. It also has the mature rating on it, which seems odd because I would assume that most of the expansions for Time Stories would be a mature. There was suicide and occult and all sorts of stuff in them. Dogmite has a new Dice Tower coming out, the Rainbow Break Apart Dice Tower. I like rainbow things. I like dice towers. This seems perfect. Dogmite makes some great stuff too. That little hammer you see me doing Hammer of Judgment from Dogmite Games. Plan B Games announced two new things for Gen Con. First, the Century Golem Edition. Now, Century Spice Roads was a very, very popular game that they've made. I think it's a great game where you play cards, collect cubes, turn them in for other cards that collect cubes. Sounds more boring. The game's really fun, really fast. They originally were going to release it in two different versions. The Spice theme, boring trading around the country theme, which is what they've published, and a theme in which you collected resources and fought golems. The exact same game, just a different theme, a different artwork. The golem artwork I thought was incredible. However, they are publishing that one. Also, that one's going to be at Gen Con. And in fact, I think they said the first 40 people who come up to them and say something, you go find on the internet, find out what it is exactly, will get one for free, which means people will be running there. I want to get a copy of this because I like Century Spice Road a lot, but the golem theme is much cooler looking for me. Also, they're going to be selling the gigantic deluxe version of Flick 'em Up. This is the one that they've been using at shows, kind of for people to play a big giant version. I want it. Okay, Days of Wonder for Gen Con has announced that they're going to have some copies of Ticket to Ride Germany. This is a redone version of Ticket to Ride Markland with some changed rules. I'm looking forward to that. And also expansions for both Five Tribes and Quadropolis. And this is nothing to do with Gen Con, but we have Museum Rush. This is from Room 17 Games. This is competitive stealing in a museum. And I put this one here because I really liked, they sent me a press release, the artwork, the theming, it looks like a lot of fun. So I'm pretty eager to try this one. All this news does seem to pale besides Fantasy Flight Games. Fantasy Flight Games made 3 big announcements this week, and maybe by the time Board Game Breakfast up, they'll have another one up. Who knows? They're just going crazy. I'm sure they're going to announce something this week too. But first of all, the biggest announcement they made by far, it was leaked like a few hours beforehand, and then they officially announced it, and that is Twilight Imperium 4 has been announced.
All right, that was a cool game. Now let's see what, I wonder what Fantasy Flight's up to. Yeah. Okay, we do. Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's good. All right. Yes, that's very nice. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, some of us are excited about that. Even I'm excited about it. It doesn't look... Okay, so this looks like less of a change than Twilight Imperium 3rd Edition from Twilight Imperium 2nd Edition was a huge change. Now, Twilight Imperium 3 came out 12 years ago in 2005. And this one is 12 years. I think it's 20 years after Edition 1. But this one... They streamline things. They have 17 playable races in it, so they have everything from the expansions in it, race-wise, but they don't have all the other expansion stuff in it. They took some things out. So they're going to have expansions for this game later on. But there's a huge box. It's $150 to get everything that's inside this. So there's a lot of stuff going on with this. If you pre-order it, you get a nice bound book and art prints and stuff. Looks very, very exciting. They also announced Fallout, the board game. I mean, if Twilight Imperium hadn't been announced, Fallout would have been the biggest announcement of the week. So they have like the number 1 and 2 announcements. Fallout, this is a scenario-based game for 1 to 4 players. I don't really know a lot more about that. It's an adventure game, but it looks like a lengthy style. They said, I think, 3 hours or whatever. We'll see. Or maybe 2 to 3. Who knows? Fantasy Flight games are always longer than they say they are. And then finally, Legacy of Dragonhold. Now, this one is like a adventure game set in the Runebound universe, or Terranoth. And what it looks like, and I might be wrong, but it looks like Sherlock Holmes consulting detective in the Terranoth universe, which honestly is like a small sidestep from an actual role-playing game. But I'm still interested. I'm still intrigued. The Terranoth universe has never actually been that strong of a narrative to me, but it is interesting. And I don't dislike the universe, so I'm curious about those. Still, though, Fantasy Flight just is like, everyone else is making announcements? We'll show you what announcements to make. But I'm glad they're back, and none of these announcements were Star Wars. Huzzah! But I'm sure they'll announce more. Anyway, that's the news. Let's get to Kickstarter.
Happy breakfast, everybody! It's Gen Con week, and while a bunch of publishers are off showing off their latest and greatest, we still have plenty of crowdfunding campaigns to look at, so let's get going. The Brigade takes place in an unfortunately named town called Tinderbox, where a magical firestorm is raining fireballs. Players take on the roles of the town's fire wardens, who are hiring crew members, upgrading the firehouse, and managing the water supply, all in their quest to become the new fire chief. Primarily a game of action selection, the Brigade is played on a town map comprised of randomly placed tiles. Event cards determine the locations hit by the fireballs, and the wardens move around the city trying to control the outbreaks and gain loyalty of the citizens. Crew members can boost your water limits, but also provide other special abilities, and the player who has the most loyal locations wins the game. The Brigade has a unique theme with a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor throughout, and you can get a copy for a pledge of $60 Australian dollars. Overworld Games is bringing us an official Total Recall game. Overworld is known for their deduction games, and they bring that to Total Recall as players are on the Federal Colonies or Rebels team. Ultimately, you have to work to find which player is the leader of the opposition group, either Cohagen or Quato, and kill them. Plot cards bring in a thematic element, and while I wish the game had rights to the film imagery, you should be aware that there could be some not safe for work artwork based on a few scenes in the film. You can get a copy of the base game for $26. From Ludi Creations comes Diesel Demolition Derby, a card game based in their diesel punk world. Designed by Matthew Dunstan of Costa Rica and Elysium fame, Diesel Demolition Derby is a quick and light drafting game using combatant cards. Each of the combatants has different strength values and abilities, and the player with the most collective combatant strength at the end of the game wins. Unlike some other lightweight drafting games, this one has a fair amount of player interaction and a lot of take that as the cards impact other players' collections, kind of like a mean Sushi Go. There's also an optional expansion called Arenas, but you can get the base game for a pledge of just $19 plus shipping. Before the Earth Explodes is a 2-player game designed by the team that designed Sagrada. Published by Green Couch Games, this is a small box game of battle and colonization in space. Cards represent ships, planets, and actions, and the core mechanism is simultaneous action selection resolved with a touch of rock, paper, scissors. Players will gain ships, deal damage, and try to complete actions that let them improve their tech, gain resources, or colonize planets. There are 4 ways to win the game, whether it's through planets, tech development, unique ship conditions, or just outright destroying your opponent. Before the Earth Explodes has great-looking art by Davey Wagnerrock, and you can get a copy for $19. And last but not least, Shipwreck Arcana is a cooperative deduction and logic game. A tableau of cards have rules for where you may place these numbered fate tokens. Players have one hidden token that they can't speak about, and they use that public token to try to help their fellow players deduce what their hidden value is by placing their public token on one of those cards. Players must predict what the hidden token value is based on that public placement, and correct predictions earn the group points, but incorrect predictions advance you on the doom track. The Arcana cards actually change up during the game, and that really keeps the players on their toes. Shipwreck Arcana has a lovely art style, and it will tickle the logic centers of players young and old, and a copy takes a pledge of just $15 plus shipping. Alrighty, that's all I've got for you this episode. Hopefully something caught your eye. And if you're attending Gen Con, I hope you have a wonderful time. And if you can't go to Gen Con, don't forget you're always welcome to join us at Gen Can't. See you next time.
And now, we join Chaz Marler's most recent existential crisis, already in progress. I recently had some very prestigious taxidermists over to my house for game night. They came over and scanned my game shelf in search of a game that they would like to play. And then, after minutes and minutes of the kind of deep concentration that can only result from years of carefully sewing bobcat pelts into evocative poses, they came to a decision and requested to play Pickpocket. A game that I don't actually have in my collection. But before I could bring myself to inform them of this fact, inevitably breaking their hearts, hearts that have most assuredly long since grown cold and brittle from years of formaldehyde exposure, I had an epiphany. I didn't own a copy of the game, but I have played it before, and I know the rules from memory. You see, this is a game that includes a deck of 52 cards, which could, theoretically, be replaced by a deck of regular playing cards. Sure, playing this way would require cross-referencing the cards, but it would certainly be possible. And then I thought the game's meeples could easily be replaced with the meeples from another game that I have. And then, as far as replicating the game's dice, well, I have plenty of dice. And its sand timers? Check. Pencil and paper? No problem. Paper money? I have more paper money than I know what to do with. Sponges? Who doesn't have several spare sponges just laying around? And before I knew it, I had assembled enough components to completely recreate this game from scratch. But then a thought hit me harder than a stuffed guinea pig thrown across the room in an attempt to get your attention that dinner's cold and your guests are leaving. I couldn't help but wonder, did I just pirate a copy of this game? Because I had just assembled an unauthorized replication of the game with the express purpose of playing it. But then, on the other hand, isn't a board game more than just a simple collection of its components? What part of a board game is the game? Are a game's rules its fundamental element and its components inconsequential? Or is the game a sum of its parts, a variety of different pieces that all come together into one package that's greater than, and a different product than, any of its individual pieces? Well, I don't know, which I guess is why I'm asking you, because this is what I do. So let me know what you think about this in the comments below, because really, I either have a weekend full of homemade gaming, or a weekend full of deleting downloaded PDF rulebooks ahead of me.
Alright, so what's coming out from the Dice Tower this week? Well, a lot of reviews. Just because Gen Con's coming doesn't mean we have a lot of stuff that we prepared ahead of time. I'm going to be reviewing Melody, How to Rob a Bank, taking a look at the new Dice Masters X-Men set, a great party game called Banned Words, Whistle Stop, Bunny Kingdom. We did a Miami Dice on that one. CV Pocket, a couple other things, a playthrough of a game that will be announced when you see the playthrough of the game. And we're doing a top 10 list this week. Our top 10 most thematic games. Games chock full of theme. Games brimming with theme. Thematic games. Something like that. And also I'll be talking about some more of my 10 games better than series. So that, and of course, all our podcasts on the network. If you never listen to the podcast and just watch the audio, we put on a podcast each week, me and Eric Summer. And next week, you're going to want to, I don't want to blow everything I'm going to talk about later on, but DicetowerNetwork.com, lots of great podcasts on there. Check it out. And many of them are going to be at Gen Con, so if you come by, you can say hi to some of these podcasters. All right, let's keep moving.
Hello everyone, my name is Annette, and you may know me as Netters Plays. And today on Applied Mechanics, I'm going to go over the game of Sun Tzu. Now, Sun Tzu is a two-player game only, and it involves area control along with simultaneous selection. So let me show you the mechanisms involved in this game and why I really like it. So here you have Sun Tzu, where the main objective of the game is to use your soldiers to gain control on certain regions of the map. If you have the majority of soldiers in that region, then you will gain control and score points at certain moments in the game. You're going to use the cards in your hand in order to figure out where you should place your soldiers and how many of them. Players will always have values 1 through 6 in their hand. However, they can also add other cards to their hand. So players are going to simultaneously pick and choose which cards to place in what regions. Then we will turn them over and figure out who won certain regions on the board. For example, the blue player played a 2 in Quinn, and the red player played a 7 there. The difference is 5, so the red player will get to place 5 of their soldiers in Quinn. You will go down the line and figure out who has majority and place those soldiers in those different locations. On the scoring round, we're going to figure out how many points to award to a player, whoever maintains majority in that region. So as you can see, Sun Tzu offers an interesting take on simultaneous selection because you're using the cards in hand in order to place them in different locations to gain majority. Now you're always trying to figure out not only what card to play, but also where to play it. So both players are always second guessing one another and even themselves. Another interesting part of the game is the area majority portion because you're not scoring every single round. Due to that, you don't necessarily have to have majorities in certain locations all the time. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
Two brothers set loose in a thrift store. This is Thrift Store Throwbacks.
Man, that last challenge was so hard. It was brutal. Mary just comes waltzing in, wins immunity, just breaking alliances. She's going to get voted off. Not this week, but oh my gosh, really? Can you mine? Oh,
Sorry, man, this is a union show. We can't delay lunch. We gotta do it in 10.
I've got emotion pouring out of me here, man.
What they love is when you're like, I'm just here to be a villain. You should do that.
No, that's I'm not going for the villain.
If you want to get $1 million, bro, wink, wink, say you're the villain, all right?
This is Survivor, the game. In the first half of the game, you're in 2 different tribes, and you're going around the board, and you're going to be landing on either Outwit, Outplay, or Outlast cards, which is either trivia, knowing things about the other players, or some kind of events or actions you're going to have to do. And you go around as a team until someone gets back to the start, and then it becomes individual play. And then you do the exact same thing. You go around the inner part of the board, and once someone gets back to the front, they get immunity for the voting process. Everyone takes a card and writes on it who they want to vote out of the game. Once Mike gets voted out, then he is out of the game. And then we literally just play the game all the way through again, and then vote someone else out, and keep doing that until there's one winner. Oh my gosh. So that was Survivor the game. This game makes me angry. You start off on teams, and then it breaks into individual play. And I was like, that's such a cool kind of like cutthroat thing. And like, no, it's just like trivia. Well, who's the most likely to eat all the kale if no one has any kale?
I don't know, Caitlin.
And then the whole voting out thing. You vote someone out for like no reason. And then you have to like play the game again until there's only 2 people left. And then people out of the game ultimately just decide the winner arbitrarily.
The game is smart because you can't vote yourself out of the game. The key is to simply survive the gaming experience.
If you really want to like feel like Survivor, just go grab a version of Quelf, machete your way 2 miles into a jungle, and then play it. That will literally get you closer to the Survivor experience and this nonsense. Do check us out on social media, though. Let us know about your most harrowing board game experience or your favorite season of survival. Duh, Season 3, Africa. And until next time, we'll see you in the jungle.
We'll see you there.
Hey folks, today in Dice Dice Baby, I got something different to show you, and this is I read the first issue of Dead of Winter comic book series. This is a comic book based on the Dead of Winter universe, which essentially is pretty much the same as the Walking Dead universe. So this first one here, which kind of centers around one character, Sparky the Wonder Dog. So I took a look at it. This is not really a game thing, but I do like reading comic books, so the artwork is good. I've read the Walking Dead comic book for a really long time until the Negan character showed up, and then I stopped reading because I thought the comics were already really dark. But I thought that Negan went down a very, very dark alley, even for the comics. But Dead of Winter comic walks a fine line between that darkness, but they're trying to shoehorn in a lot of comedy. I didn't think the comedy worked all the time. Parts of it were funny, and one of the characters are all from the Dead of Winter comics series. I mean, from the game, at least in issue 1. There's one character who the profanity is almost like he's using profanity because he can. It's hard to explain. It doesn't feel like it fits in the comic. So I would rate the comic on the art. I'd give it an A-. I thought the art was pretty good. I enjoyed it. It brought in the Dead of Winter. The theming, also same thing. The writing was maybe a B-. I thought the writing could have been stronger. There's no hook for me in this story, but there might be maybe as the comics continue to go on. I thought that the maturity level, I guess, is where it's at, right? It's about zombies and brains, and so the language kind of fits in with that, but I felt like it was shoehorned in, so I wasn't that impressed with that. But hey, this might be something you might be interested in, checking out a comic book based on the Dead of Winter universe. Again, they need to differentiate that universe from Walking Dead so that there's like some differences, and I think that humor is the way they're trying to do, but it will take some more comics before I decide completely. Anyway, that's what I want to talk about today.
Oh, hello there. Today on Time to Learn, we're taking a look at Century Spice Road.
Century Spice Road is a game for 2 to 5 players designed by Emerson Matsuuchi, and it's published by Plan B Games. So in this game, basically what you're trying to do is collecting different spices. The way you do that is you're going to acquire different cards from the market, and those cards will help you to give actions that you can take so you can accumulate more spices. And then depending on how many spices you have, you're going to be able to buy different cards. The point cards have different amounts of points showing on the bottom of the card there. Also on the very bottom, you have the cost of those cards. You will see that on the last 2 cards, you have a group of coins. So when you buy one of those 2 cards, you not only get that card, but you collect the coins. Gold, worth 3 points, and silver, worth 1 point. That's pretty much it. That's how you play Center Spice Road. Alright, so what's your final thoughts on Center Spice Road?
I think it's a really good gateway game in that you can teach many new gamers this game.
Yeah. Do you think it was easy to learn?
Yeah, I could learn it in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, she did. I agree with her. It's a really good game to teach new people to play. Very simple rules, very fun to play. It's a relaxed kind of vibe. I really like it. I thought it was a fun game. I think it's a worth game to have on the shelf. Did you think it was like better than Splendor?
I think they're both the same and that they're both really great. Like they're very splendorous.
I think you can have both of them on your shelf. We're probably going to play this more right now because it's a new game, but excellent game. So, do you approve the game?
Yes.
All right. So I see you guys next time.
See you around the table. Bye.
Let's see. I wonder how many more books I can fit into this bag. Oh, hi there. I'm Chris Renshaw from the Boards and Swords podcast, and I'm packing for Gen Con, but this is role-playing. As I'm preparing to go to Gen Con, I just made me think of a couple of things, not a big segment this week. First of all, if you're wanting to join me in some RPG events, I'll be doing a lot with Monte Cook Games again. Now on Saturday, I'm going to be running demos at the MCG booth, starting when the dealer hall opens and until about lunchtime. I'll be running their flagship product, Numenera. I'll be doing a bunch of quick 30-minute sessions. So if you've ever heard about Numenera and want to give it a shot, you can come by and drop in and participate in a game. After that, later that day, I'll be doing demos of No Thank You Evil, which is a make-believe game for kids, getting them into RPGs and introducing them into a game that can kind of scale up with them as they get older. It says it ranges from ages 5 to infinity. So if you're there with your family on Saturday afternoon, stop by the Monte Cook Games booth and I can give you a demo of the game. So that's all the stuff that RPG-wise that I'll be doing at Gen Con. I'll be at all sorts of other meetups. If you see me, flag me down and wave hi. And crap, I haven't even packed any of my D&D books. Last minute tip, PDFs are really great. And so for all of you going to Gen Con, I hope that all your hits be crits.
Now, interestingly enough, my Tom Thinks was triggered by Twilight Imperium 4, of course. Now, I think it's fine for them to make a 4th edition. I'm sure some people will yell about that, but it's been 12 years since the 3rd edition. The thing about Twilight Imperium 4 is the price tag is $150. Now, that's not a huge price compared to cars and houses, but for games, that's pretty high up there. However, high-end games are selling more and more. And every time I see one, people yell, "Oh, I can't believe how expensive something is." But I've never understood why people complain that a big game is so expensive. I can see if you get one of these small games back here, like for example, this Splendor expansion here, Cities of Splendor expansion. I think it's like $30 or so, and some people say, that doesn't seem like it's worth it. Yeah, maybe it's not, okay? But if you play it 50, 60, 70 times, it's totally worth it. There was a guy on the internet a long time ago, and I really disagree with his methodology and the way he acted on the internet, but he came up with this cost per play thing where he needed a game to get down to be pennies per play, which is idiocy. I mean, to me, if I'm going to go to the movies and I go to cheap movies and maybe not buy popcorn and just go to the movies, right? And maybe I'm lucky and get a matinee and get it for $7. For 2 hours, it's pretty good. If a board game gives me and 4 friends entertainment one time for 2 hours, and it costs $30, that is almost the same pricing there. 30 divided by 4 is about $7 or so. But That's only if you play it once. You play it twice, it goes down to $3.50. You play it 3 times, it gets cut even farther, and so on and so forth. A game like Twilight Imperium provides you with an epic experience. If I want to go to an escape room with my friends, that is usually an hour long. I can go there with my friends and we pay $20 a head. There's 6 of us. That's $120 for 1 hour. Why would we do such a thing? Because it's worth it. It's a great fun experience. It's not something you want to do all the time. Twilight Imperium 4 is not a game you're going to want to buy all the time, but it's going to provide you with at least one epic 8-hour game. I know, 4 to 8 hours. 8 hours game. And probably more than that. Even if you play it once a year, once every 2 years, you are definitely getting your money's worth, $150, right, between 6 players for 8 hours. That's 48 hours into a $150 purchase, which is about $3 per player per hour. That's not bad at all. Lots of people will do that. And again, it's only for one play. And you get a ton of content in the box. Now, I do wonder, though, how many of these epic games we can handle. There is the Cthulhu Wars, a very expensive game. There's these deluxe versions of games. I got one down here on the ground, the Takinoko Deluxe game. We have epic Kickstarter games where you pay $200 and you get a huge amount. Miniatures games. And I've talked to store owners about this, and the store owners have told me people will pony up this money. Not everybody, but enough people do that companies are starting to see that these big deluxe games might be worth it. And even if they don't sell well in store, they definitely sell okay on the internet. So I think we've definitely seen a trend of these giant, big, humongous deluxe games coming. I'm not opposed to this idea. I find it interesting and fascinating. I would not want every game to be big and deluxe, but the fact is they're not. Now, my caveat is they need to feel big and deluxe. They need to feel like they're worth it. Like, I think Cthulhu Wars is good, not fantastic, but for the people who do, it's a fantastic game. It's huge, it's mega, you were playing Cthulhu Wars. Twilight Imperium 4 will be the same way. War of the Rings Deluxe Edition, same thing. But there are some times where companies are trying to make big, epic games, and the game is actually kind of small. Some of the Eagle Griffin games come to mind when we talk about this sort of thing. And that, I'm not like, are we just making it big to make it big? Or even Kickstarters. The game is like a $30 game, but once you add in everything, you paid $150 for such a thing. I'm like, was that worth it for that much? But maybe it is to you. The fact is, these big cost games are here to stay. They really are. And they're good for the hobby. Again, they would be bad if all games cost that much, but they don't. And I always, when people get online, like, oh, I don't like this trend of games going over $100. Well, first of all, inflation, prices just go up in general. But secondly, most games don't cost that much. Go online to Cool Stuff Inc. right now, pick a couple games that look interesting, and they aren't going to be costing that much. There's lots of small card games. Kickstarter has a ton of them out there. So there's plenty of cheap games. But these big, giant, mega expensive games, there's a lot more than there used to be, and there's obviously a market for them. I think they're worth investing in a few of them, the ones that you think are going to be fantastic and fun, and then get your money's worth out of them. Play them multiple times. Anyway, I'd like to see what you guys think. Let me know in the comments.
Hey everyone, it's lunchtime!
So today we're looking at Century Spice Road. It is a game designed by Emerson Matsuuchi, published by Plan B Games, plays 2 to 5 players in about 30 to 45 minutes for ages 8 and up.
Century Spice Road, everyone is a spice merchant, and we're trying to make the most points by gathering point cards and coins from the display. We will trade in the various spices. We have what are they again? We have cinnamon, we have cardamom, we have saffron, and finally we have
turmeric.
Turmeric, thank you. And so we're going to collect cards in order to make exchanges of one type of spice for another. And once we get the right combination of spices, we can collect the point cards, and the first person to collect 5 point cards in certain player accounts or 6 in other player accounts will end the game.
So I played this game a long time ago before it was called Century Spice Road, and I loved it then, and I love it now, and it looks so pretty with the mat, and I'm not a mat girl, and I really like this mat. So if you buy this game, I have to say, the mat is kind of necessary.
It's not necessary, but it really does add to the game.
It really does.
Yeah, no, it's necessary. But for portability wise though, bringing it to work, that part's kind of awkward. But maybe just, keep a copy at work. Have one at home.
So they did a great job with even the cups that it came with. The cups were standardized, and I love that cinnamon is the most upgraded spice because love cinnamon.
The best one.
But even the art, it's so diverse in all the different cards and the coins. Oh, just that clinking sound the coins make. So it just feels like a quality game, even though the actual mechanics are super light and anyone can really pick up. It just feels like a nice, solid game.
So people have said it's a Splendor killer. I don't know. I don't really feel it's like Splendor because I don't really like Splendor.
The mechanics are not quite the same as Splendor, but it does use a lot of the same brain processes, I guess, to make you, figure out how to get one upgrade to the next, so I see how they compare it to Splendor, but you're right, it's not like Splendor. I think there's room for both of those great games in your collection.
Yeah, so I think this is definitely a winner in our group, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Hi, Mike Delisio from Solomode Games. At the time of the airing of this video, it's going to be the week of Gen Con 2017. I'm incredibly excited. This is my home convention, and so like I did with my Origins video, I just want to run down my top 5 most anticipated solo games of this convention. At number 5, we have from Greater Than Games, Spirit Island. A game with tremendous art, a really unique theme where you are playing these spirits, working with native people on an island who are trying to kind of overthrow these colonial powers. It's a cooperative game, supposed to be very hard, but I'm really interested in it. At number 4, Witches of the Revolution from Atlas Games. This game was on my Origins list, but it wasn't for sale there. Apparently it's a deck builder where you're playing witches and you're involved in the American Revolution. What an odd theme, but as a history teacher, I'm definitely intrigued. Number 3, This War of Mine from Galacta Games. This game has a difficult theme, one of war. It's based off of a video game IP, but from what I can tell, they're handling it responsibly. It's already in the hands of Kickstarter backers, and I've been reading good reports, so definitely interested in it. Number 2 is Nemo's War 2nd Edition from Victory Point Games. Boy, this game has shot up the list because although I had heard about it and was interested, I have heard more people tell me about this game. I need to see this game. Well, I'm listening. I want to see this game. Finally, my number 1 most anticipated solo game of Gen Con 2017 is Ex Libris from Renegade Games. Great theme. Beautiful art where you are in this magical library organizing and sorting books. I just love that idea, and Renegade Games has been knocking it out of the park lately. Anything they do has my interest. There you have it. My top 5 most anticipated solo games of Gen Con 2017. What are you most excited about? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
On this week's episode, we have someone and their fiance looking for a game to entertain both of them. So, let's see what we got. Hi, I'm Gary Pope from Late to the Table, and this is What Should I Get, where we go on the board game subreddit and look under the daily personalized game recommendation mega thread that's there on a daily basis. And we go ahead and recommend games for them. So, let's go ahead and start. MGM Studios and their fiance are looking for a game which could also play with themselves and also possibly hold other players as well. They played a lot of Pandemic, and while it's starting to get a little bit boring at 2 players, they're also willing to expand their horizons on new games. Now, games that I always recommend for 2 players are always going to be the one-offs, such as Sherlock Holmes, Time Stories, and just basically any of the escape room games. But some other games I would definitely suggest would be Spirit Island for one, which is, I would consider it heavy Pandemic. It's basically, it has some of the same mechanics in terms of like putting things on the board and those eventually spread and cause more problems for you. But this game is much heavier game. It has a lot more options, a lot more variants, and also a lot more abilities that each character can use. So it's really cool how they made it work. I would also give Spectre Ops a try. In my opinion, it's the go-to hidden movement game for 2 players. It's super streamlined to the point where the rules are almost common sense. What's also cool is that the person who's playing as the hunter, if they want more options, they can also add more hunters to the game and basically play it as if they're playing as 4 players, but it's only 1 person. And it's not a fiddly game at all, so it's super simple. BattleCon's always going to be my go-to game if 2 people are trying to get a game that has a lot of replay value in it. Like I've said in the past, it's a fighting game put into a board game and does a really good job at it. Now for this one, I would also suggest Mage Knight and Gloomhaven. What's really good about these games that they both bring the RPG experience to a board game really well. Mage Knight is super heavy in the rules, but once you get it down, it's pretty easy to go. I would also suggest checking out the Star Trek Frontier game, which I think in my opinion streamlines it just a bit by removing the night phase. And then Gloomhaven is a great game. If you don't mind waiting, I would actually suggest going with that one over Mage Knight. And that was another episode, What Should I Get? Be sure to check me out actually at Gen Con this week. I'm actually going to be hanging out with the Dice Tower guys, helping them out, and also doing the whole running about, experiencing Gen Con, etc. It's actually going to be my first time, so it's going to be really interesting. And if you have any other questions, be sure to post them on the board game subreddit underneath that daily personalized game recommendation place. Until next time, this is Gary Pope from Late to the Table, and I hope you're enjoying your breakfast.
Okay, folks, what's on the shelf this week? Here we're showing some bigger box games that are on the top of my shelf. I have Zaya here, which I still haven't played with the expansion yet. It's very high on my list of things to do. El Grande, the big box version, which is a great area control game. Defenders of the Last Stand, I really like this one. It's like Defenders of the Realm, but set in a Mad Max style universe. Ave Caesar is over here. This is a great racing game, although I'm wondering if Downforce is going to replace it. And then this Dice Tower here, which is a Rathskeller's Dice Tower. Of course, they make really cool stuff. It's just a good, solid Dice Tower. And over here, I think some shot glasses I have of different guys. This is the Wolfman. Here we have Frankenstein and Dracula and the Mummy. I was going to use those for like little chip counters, but they're maybe a little bit too thin for that, but they're sure fun to play games with. And that, folks, is what's on the shelf this week.
Hello guys, it's me, Jan from SpieLlama Day. I'm finally back on the board game breakfast. And instead of showing you 3 games I recently played, I will show you the reason why I've been gone so long. And the reason is this guy. And because of him, I couldn't spend my time like this. Usually what I do, right? And instead I have to spend my time like this. So yeah, but it should be all worth it, I hope. I mean, I have made a new board game player. So, but this raised one important question to myself. No, not if I'm being a great dad. I will be a great dad, that's for sure. But what if he don't like board games? What if he really hate them, or I don't know? Is there, and that's my question, is there, are there children who don't like board games? And if so, yes. And if so, do you know how to change their mind? Is there a special game which you could recommend? That's for children who don't like board games? I have to play this game and then they will like board games? Or did you never heard of such a thing, that a child doesn't like board games? Let me know in the comments. I'm really eager to hear. And also on which age do you started with your children to play board games? With like around 2 or more like 4? Yeah, so I'm really eager to read your comments and hopefully see you next week. Bye bye.
Hi everybody, welcome to War and Pieces, and happy breakfast to you all. Well, this week is Gen Con week, one of the biggest weeks of the year for board gaming, wargaming, painting and everything. There's one problem. There's not a lot of war games. Out of 571 games that I saw on that list, there are only 3 really considered war games that are coming out, and this kind of talks about how the wargaming industry is kind of hurting because the older guys like myself have to bring in the new guys. Now we're going to be talking about this further weeks, but there are 3 games that I am looking forward to at Gen Con. So let's take and run them down, and I'll try to find out if there's some more hidden gems that I don't know about. But in the meantime, here we go. Iron Curtain will come in at number 3. This is a card game, war game, but it's still considered a war game. Britain versus France. This really looks good. This looks like something that could fly under the radar and be very, very good. And my number 1 pick from Columbia Games is Combat Infantry. I'm really looking forward to this. I like a lot of Columbia Games, and I'm looking forward to it. So we're going to see what we can find out at Gen Con. I'm looking forward to reporting from there for you guys. And until next week, I'm Rob Warren for War and Pieces. We will see you soon.
Hello, my name's Dan, and this is Cora, and we're here today to talk to you about board games for children of around 5 and under. And today, we're talking about this game. What is it, Cora?
Flow and Po.
Flow and Po. Flow and Po is a roll and move game where players are racing big wooden dogs covered in fleas. On your turn, you're going to roll 2 dice to see which colour flea you're going to move. If the flea is on one of your opponent's dog, it's going to jump onto your dog. However, if it's on your dog, then it will jump off and jump onto the opponent's dog. Once its lice shower's finished, you're going to move your dog an equal number of spaces to the number of fleas on its back. Presumably, it's moving forward to try and escape being bitten. The person whose dog crosses the finish line first is the winner, and is very gracious in their victory. Yeah! So Cora, what do you think about Flow and Po?
I think it's good.
Why do you like it?
It's kind of a quick game.
It is a quick game, isn't it? It's over very quickly. And it's always very close, actually. It is a roll and move game. There's very little meaningful decisions to be made. But the ebb and flow of the game means that it's always very close. It's always both times, isn't it? First time I won, and the second time you won.
Even.
And that's it, we were even. And both times it was very close. It was you know, it could have been either of us, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we give Flow and Po 2 flea jumping thumbs up. Boing, 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 boing.
Hey folks, that's it for another Board Game Breakfast. I hope to see some of you at Gen Con this week. Now, here's a heads up. Next week, Board Game Breakfast is going to be delayed. It's not going to be on Monday, it's going to be on Tuesday, because I'm spending Monday getting caught in the solar eclipse. Not really coming back from Gen Con. It'd be cool to do Board Game Breakfast in the solar eclipse. Oh, anyway, guys, we have a lot of cool stuff. We're going to be recording stuff at Gen Con. Hopefully you'll see some of that in the following week, but we have a lot of great videos still coming up this week. I'll see you guys in a couple hours at my live Gen Con preview. Until then, I'm Tom Vassell, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vassell and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production. Sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., an amazing place to buy board games. Cool stuff in stock at CoolStuffInc.com.